Sarah Mitchell had always been different from other girls in her small Texas town. While her classmates spent afternoons at the mall or gossiping about boys, she was at the local gym, pushing herself through grueling workout routines that would make grown men wince. Her father, a retired Marine, had instilled in her a discipline and toughness that set her apart from her peers. Every morning at 5, she would join him for runs along the dusty country roads, their breath visible in the crisp dawn air as they pushed through mile after mile. The idea of joining the military had been planted in her mind since childhood. Her father's war stories weren't glamorous tales of glory, but honest accounts of brotherhood, sacrifice, and the weight of responsibility that came with serving one's country. He never pushed her toward military service, but he made sure she understood what it meant to be strong, both physically and mentally. When other parents were teaching their daughters to be polite and demure, Sarah's father was teaching her to be fearless and determined. Her mother, initially worried about her daughter's unconventional interests, eventually came to admire Sarah's unwavering dedication. She watched her daughter wake up before sunrise, maintain perfect grades while training like an athlete, and never complain about the sacrifices she made to pursue her goals. Sarah's bedroom walls were covered with pictures of military heroes, both men and women, who had broken barriers and achieved the impossible. During her senior year of high school, Sarah made a decision that shocked her guidance counselors and classmates. Instead of accepting the academic scholarships that several prestigious universities had offered her, she announced her intention to enlist in the Navy. Her grades were exceptional, her SAT scores were in the top percentile, and she had been accepted to every college she had applied to. Yet, she felt called to something greater than a traditional college experience. The recruitment office was a small, sterile building on the outskirts of town. When Sarah walked in, the recruiter, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a firm handshake, looked surprised to see a petite 18-year-old girl expressing interest in the most demanding military training programs. He spent over an hour explaining the realities of military life, the physical demands, and the mental challenges she would face. Sarah listened intently, asking detailed questions about training programs, deployment schedules, and advancement opportunities. What truly caught the recruiter's attention was when Sarah asked about the Navy SEALs. At that time, women were not yet allowed in direct combat roles, but Sarah had done her research. She knew that barriers were slowly being broken down, and she wanted to be ready when the opportunity arose. The recruiter admired her ambition but gently explained the current limitations. Sarah's response was simple and determined. She would train as if those barriers didn't exist, and when they fell, she would be the first through the door. Her final months of high school were spent in intense preparation. She increased her training regimen, focusing on swimming, running, and strength training. Her father helped her design a program that would prepare her for the physical demands of military training. They practiced obstacle courses in their backyard, using old tires, ropes, and makeshift barriers. Neighbors often stopped to watch the unusual sight of a teenage girl army crawling under barbed wire and climbing over walls with the precision of a seasoned soldier. The emotional preparation was just as important as the physical training. Sarah spent hours reading military history, studying leadership principles, and learning about the psychological challenges of military life. She knew that her gender would make her a target for skepticism and discrimination, so she prepared herself mentally for the battles she would face both in training and throughout her career. Her high school graduation was bittersweet. While her classmates celebrated their acceptance letters and planned for college orientations, Sarah was preparing for a completely different kind of education. Her friends didn't understand her choice, and some openly questioned her sanity. Comments like, "Why would you want to do a man's job, and you'll never make it through basic training?" became common. Sarah learned to smile politely and keep her responses brief. She had nothing to prove to them. The night before leaving for basic training, Sarah's father sat with her on their front porch, sharing stories about his own military experience. He talked about the friends he had lost, the lessons he had learned, and the pride he felt in serving his country. As they watched the stars appear in the darkening sky, he told her something that would stay with her throughout her entire military career. Strength isn't about being the biggest or the loudest. It's about refusing to quit when everyone expects you to fail. Basic training was everything Sarah had expected and more. The drill instructors were relentless, the physical demands were extreme, and the mental pressure was constant. From the moment she stepped off the bus at the training facility, She was met with skeptical stares and whispered comments from male recruits who doubted her ability to keep up. Some were openly hostile, making crude jokes about women in the military and predicting her quick departure. Sarah's response was to let her performance speak for itself. During the initial physical fitness tests, she outperformed 60% of the male recruits. Her swimming skills, honed during years of training with her father, were exceptional. Her endurance during long runs left many of her male counterparts struggling to keep pace. Most importantly, her mental toughness never wavered, even during the most challenging exercises designed to break down recruits and rebuild them as soldiers. The drill instructors noticed her immediately, but not necessarily for positive reasons. Some saw her determination as admirable, while others viewed it as a challenge to their authority. They pushed her harder than the other recruits, giving her extra duties and more demanding physical challenges. Sarah understood their strategy and embraced it. Every additional push-up, every extra mile, every harsh criticism was making her stronger and more prepared for her ultimate goal. Her bunkmates in basic training were a diverse group of young women from various backgrounds, but none shared Sarah's intensity or long-term military ambitions. Some had joined for educational benefits, others for stable employment, and a few to escape difficult home situations. Sarah's dedication to training and her obvious physical superiority created some tension within the group. Some saw her as showing off, while others were intimidated by her capabilities. One particular incident during basic training would become a defining moment in Sarah's military career. During a challenging obstacle course exercise, one of her fellow female recruits, Maria, was struggling to complete a rope climb. The drill instructor was screaming at her, threatening to remove her from the program if she couldn't complete the task. Sarah, who had already finished her own circuit, made a split-second decision that would have consequences throughout her career. Instead of standing by and watching Maria fail, Sarah positioned herself below the rope and began coaching her through the climb. She called out encouragement, provided technique tips, and refused to leave until Maria successfully reached the top. The drill instructor was furious at what he saw as unauthorized assistance and insubordination. As punishment, he forced both women to repeat the entire obstacle course while the rest of the unit watched. Sarah completed her punishment circuit flawlessly, but more importantly, she helped Maria finish as well. That evening, several of her fellow recruits approached her with a new level of respect. They had witnessed not just her physical capabilities, but her commitment to helping others succeed. The drill instructor, despite his anger at her disobedience, privately noted her leadership potential in his evaluation reports. The weeks of basic training passed in a blur of physical challenges, classroom instruction, and gradual transformation from civilian to sailor. Sarah excelled in every area, from weapons training to navigation, from first aid to military protocol. Her instructors began to take notice of her exceptional performance and started asking about her long-term career goals. When she mentioned her interest in special operations, their reactions ranged from encouragement to skepticism. During the final weeks of basic training, Sarah received news that would change the trajectory of her military career. Policy changes were being implemented that would eventually allow women to serve in direct combat roles, including special operations units. The timeline was uncertain and the requirements would be identical to those for male candidates, but the possibility was becoming a reality. Sarah felt a surge of excitement and determination that carried her through the remaining challenges of basic training. Graduation from basic training was a moment of immense pride for Sarah and her family. Her parents traveled to the ceremony and her father's eyes filled with tears as he watched his daughter receive her Navy insignia. The transformation was remarkable. The determined teenage girl had become a confident, capable sailor, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Her drill instructors shook her hand and told her they expected great things from her future military career. Following basic training, Sarah was assigned to additional schooling for her chosen military specialty. She had selected a field that would provide valuable skills for special operations training. Combat engineering. The school was demanding, requiring mastery of explosives, construction techniques, and complex problem-solving under pressure. Once again, Sarah found herself as one of only a few women in a male-dominated environment. Her classmates in engineering school were generally more accepting than those in basic training. These were sailors who had already proven themselves, and were focused on mastering their craft rather than questioning whether women belonged in the military. Sarah's technical aptitude was evident from the first day of classes, and she quickly established herself as one of the top students in the program. The hands-on training in combat engineering was exactly what Sarah had hoped for. She learned to handle explosives with precision, to build and destroy structures under combat conditions, and to solve complex logistical problems under extreme pressure. Her instructors were impressed not just with her technical skills, but with her ability to remain calm and focused during high-stress exercises. These were exactly the qualities that special operations units would be looking for. During her time in engineering school, Sarah continued her physical training regimen, often working out during her limited free time while other students relaxed or socialized. She knew that maintaining peak physical condition was essential for her long-term goals, and she refused to let the demanding academic schedule interfere with her fitness. Her dedication didn't go unnoticed by her instructors, who began to see her as a model student who could serve as an example to others. One of her instructors, Master Chief Peterson, was a former SEAL who had transitioned to teaching after completing his operational career. He recognized something special in Sarah's combination of technical skill, physical capability, and mental toughness. During private conversations, he began to mentor her, providing insights into the special operations community and advice on how to prepare for the challenges ahead. His guidance would prove invaluable in the months to come. As Sarah neared the completion of her engineering training, she received word that policies regarding women in combat roles were evolving more rapidly than expected. Several female soldiers and Marines had already begun special operations training programs, and the Navy was preparing to open SEAL training to qualified women. The announcement sent waves of excitement and anxiety through Sarah's entire being. The opportunity she had trained for since high school was finally becoming a reality. The final weeks of engineering school were filled with intensive preparation for her next assignment. Sarah knew that her performance in her first operational unit would be crucial for establishing the credentials needed for special operations selection. She studied harder, trained longer, and maintained the mental discipline that had carried her through every challenge so far. Her instructors provided glowing evaluations, noting her exceptional technical skills, leadership potential, and unwavering dedication to excellence. Graduation day from engineering school was another milestone in Sarah's journey toward her ultimate goal. She had completed every requirement with distinction and earned the respect of instructors and classmates alike. More importantly, she had gained the technical skills and confidence needed for the next phase of her military career. As she prepared for her first operational assignment, Sarah felt ready for whatever challenges awaited her. Her first duty station was a naval construction battalion based in California, where she would put her engineering skills to work on various construction and demolition projects. The assignment would provide valuable experience working with explosives and complex engineering challenges, while allowing her to continue preparing for special operations training. Sarah approached this new chapter with the same determination and focus that had carried her through every previous challenge. The commanding officer of her new unit, Commander Roberts, had read Sarah's training records and was eager to see how her exceptional academic performance would translate to operational duties. During their initial meeting, he made it clear that he expected nothing less than excellence from all his sailors, regardless of gender. Sarah appreciated his straightforward approach and assured him that she was ready to prove herself through her actions rather than her words. Her first weeks with the construction battalion were a whirlwind of new experiences and challenges. Sarah was assigned to a team responsible for demolition operations, work that required precision, technical expertise, and absolute attention to safety protocols. Her teammates were experienced sailors who had worked together for years, and they were initially skeptical about integrating a newcomer, especially a woman, into their tight-knit group. Sarah's approach was to demonstrate her competence through consistent, exceptional performance, rather than trying to prove herself through bravado or confrontation. She arrived early for every assignment, stayed late to ensure equipment was properly maintained, and volunteered for the most challenging and dangerous tasks. Her technical knowledge from engineering school proved invaluable, and her ability to solve complex problems under pressure quickly earned the respect of her teammates. One particular mission would establish Sarah's reputation within the battalion and set the stage for the challenges that lay ahead. The team was tasked with demolishing a series of aging structures on a military base, work that required precise placement of explosive charges to ensure controlled destruction without damaging nearby buildings. The operation was complicated by tight space constraints and the presence of hazardous materials that needed careful handling. Sarah took the lead on calculating the explosive charges needed for each structure, work that required complex mathematical calculations and deep understanding of structural engineering principles. Her calculations were flawless, and the demolition proceeded exactly as planned. Her teammates were impressed not just with her technical expertise, but with her calm confidence under pressure. For the first time since joining the unit, Sarah felt truly accepted as a valuable team member rather than an outsider trying to prove herself. Sarah's exceptional performance with the construction battalion had not gone unnoticed by higher command. After 18 months of operational duty, she received the news she had been waiting for her entire military career. Women were officially being accepted for SEAL training, and she was eligible to apply. The announcement came through official channels, but Sarah had been preparing for this moment since the day she enlisted. Her commanding officer called her into his office with a mixture of pride and concern on his face. Commander Roberts had watched Sarah's development over the past year and a half, and he knew she possessed the technical skills and mental toughness required for special operations. However, he also understood the enormous challenges she would face as one of the first women to attempt SEAL training. The conversation was honest and direct. He outlined the physical demands, the psychological pressure, and the additional scrutiny she would face as a female candidate. Sarah listened intently, but her mind was already made up. The application process for SEAL training was extensive and demanding. Beyond the standard military evaluations, candidates had to pass rigorous physical fitness tests, psychological assessments, and medical examinations. Sarah had been preparing for these requirements throughout her entire military career, but she knew that meeting the minimum standards wouldn't be enough. She would need to exceed every requirement to prove that she belonged in the program. The physical screening test was the first major hurdle. Candidates had to complete a series of timed exercises, including a 500-yard swim, maximum push-ups and sit-ups in 2 minutes each, maximum pull-ups with no time limit, and a 1.5-mile run. The minimum standards were challenging for most male candidates, but Sarah had been training specifically for these tests for years. Her swimming times were exceptional, her endurance was remarkable, and her strength numbers exceeded the requirements by significant margins. More challenging than the physical tests were the psychological evaluations designed to assess candidates' mental resilience and ability to perform under extreme stress. The evaluators put candidates through scenarios designed to simulate the pressure and uncertainty of combat operations. Sarah's engineering background and her experience with high-stress demolition work served her well during these assessments. She demonstrated the ability to think clearly under pressure, make quick decisions with limited information, and maintain focus during chaotic situations. The medical examinations were thorough and invasive, designed to identify any physical limitations that could affect performance during training or operational deployments. Sarah's years of intense physical training had prepared her body for these examinations, and the results confirmed what her performance had already demonstrated. She was in exceptional physical condition, with no limitations that would prevent her from completing SEAL training. While waiting for the results of her application, Sarah continued her duties with the construction battalion while intensifying her physical preparation. She knew that SEAL training would push her body to its absolute limits, and she wanted to arrive in the best possible condition. Her training regimen expanded to include long ocean swims, underwater breath-holding exercises, and extended runs carrying heavy loads. Her teammates watched in amazement as she pushed herself through workouts that would exhaust most professional athletes. The psychological preparation was equally important. Sarah spent hours reading about previous SEAL training classes, studying the techniques used to break down candidates mentally, and developing strategies to maintain focus and determination when facing seemingly impossible challenges. She practiced meditation and visualization techniques, imagining herself successfully completing the most difficult aspects of training. Mental preparation would prove to be just as important as physical conditioning in the months ahead. The notification of her acceptance came on a Tuesday morning in March. Sarah was working on a routine demolition project when Commander Roberts called her to his office. The official letter was brief and formal, but the message was clear. She had been selected for basic underwater demolition/SEAL training, commonly known as BUD/S, beginning in 6 weeks. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she read the words that represented the culmination of years of preparation and sacrifice. The 6 weeks between notification and the start of training passed quickly. Sarah used the time to fine-tune her physical conditioning, complete administrative requirements, and mentally prepare for the challenge ahead. Her father traveled to California to spend her final weekend before training began. They didn't talk much about the significance of what she was about to attempt, but his presence provided the emotional support and confidence she needed. The night before reporting to Bud/S Sarah, lay awake thinking about the journey that had brought her to this moment. From the early morning runs with her father through the challenging years of technical training, every experience had prepared her for what lay ahead. She thought about the skeptics who had questioned her abilities and the supporters who had believed in her potential. Tomorrow would mark the beginning of the ultimate test of everything she had worked towards. Bud/S training began at dawn on a Monday morning in early April. Sarah joined approximately 200 other candidates, representing the largest and most diverse class in SEAL training history. The presence of 3 women in the class, including Sarah, attracted significant media attention and added an extra layer of pressure to an already intense experience. The instructors made it clear from the first day that gender would not affect their standards or expectations. The first phase of Bud/S training focused on basic conditioning and water skills. Days began before sunrise with physical fitness tests and continued through evening with swimming, running, and strength training. The instructors, all experienced SEALs, pushed every candidate to their physical and mental limits. Sarah quickly established herself as one of the strongest performers in the class, consistently ranking in the top percentile for all physical assessments. However, her exceptional performance also made her a target for extra attention from the instructors. They seemed determined to test whether her early success was sustainable under increasing pressure. Sarah received additional physical challenges, longer runs and more demanding swim sessions. Instead of becoming frustrated or resentful, she embraced the additional challenges as opportunities to prove her commitment and capabilities. The other candidates' reactions to Sarah's presence varied significantly. Some were openly supportive, recognizing her exceptional abilities and treating her as a respected teammate. Others were skeptical, questioning whether standards were being lowered to accommodate female candidates. A small minority were openly hostile, making crude comments and attempting to undermine her confidence through psychological warfare. Sarah learned to ignore the negativity and focus on the supporters who judged her solely on performance. One of the most challenging aspects of the first phase was the long ocean swims conducted in cold Pacific waters. Candidates were required to swim increasingly long distances while wearing full gear, often in rough seas and challenging weather conditions. Sarah's exceptional swimming skills, developed through years of training, gave her a significant advantage during these exercises. She consistently finished among the top swimmers and often helped struggling candidates complete their swims successfully. The instructors noticed her willingness to help other candidates, a quality that was both admired and scrutinized. SEAL culture emphasized teamwork and looking out for fellow warriors, but instructors wanted to ensure that her helpfulness wasn't a sign of weakness or inability to focus on her own performance. Sarah struck a careful balance, providing assistance when appropriate while maintaining the competitive edge necessary for individual success. As the first phase progressed, the number of candidates steadily decreased. Some quit voluntarily, overwhelmed by the physical demands or mental pressure. Others were removed for failing to meet performance standards or suffering injuries that prevented continued participation. Sarah watched strong, capable men leave the program, reinforcing her understanding of how extraordinary it was to have the opportunity to continue. The most infamous aspect of Bud/S training was Hell Week, a 5.5-day period of continuous training with minimal sleep and maximum physical and mental stress. Candidates were pushed to their absolute breaking point through nonstop physical activities, cold water exposure, and psychological pressure designed to simulate the stress of combat operations. Only about half of the candidates who started Hell Week typically finished. Sarah had prepared specifically for Hell Week throughout her entire military career, knowing that it would be the ultimate test of her mental and physical resilience. She had studied accounts from previous SEAL candidates, practiced sleep deprivation techniques, and conditioned her body to function under extreme fatigue. Most importantly, she had developed the mental discipline necessary to push through pain and exhaustion when every instinct told her to quit. Hell Week began on a Sunday evening, with hours of intensive physical training, followed by a night swim in frigid ocean water. The instructors maintained constant pressure through verbal harassment, physical challenges, and sleep deprivation tactics designed to break down candidates' mental defenses. By Tuesday, more than 30 candidates had quit, leaving their helmets in a line that served as a constant reminder of how easy it would be to end the suffering. Sarah's performance during Hell Week was remarkable by any standard. Despite the sleep deprivation, physical exhaustion, and constant pressure, she maintained her composure and continued to perform at an exceptional level. Her technical skills remained sharp. Her physical capabilities didn't diminish significantly, and her mental focus never wavered. The instructors pushed her harder than most candidates, but she met every challenge with determination and professionalism. By Wednesday night of Hell Week, only about 60 candidates remained in the class. The instructors had identified Sarah as one of the strongest performers and began using her as an example to motivate struggling male candidates. Comments like, "If she can do it, so can you," became common during particularly challenging exercises. Some candidates found this motivating, while others resented the comparison and directed their frustration towards Sarah. The final days of Hell Week tested every aspect of candidates' physical and mental capabilities. Extended runs in soft sand, hours-long sessions in cold surf, and complex problem-solving exercises under extreme fatigue pushed everyone to their breaking point. Sarah's engineering background proved valuable during the problem-solving challenges, and her exceptional physical conditioning allowed her to maintain performance levels when others were struggling to function. When Hell Week finally ended on Friday evening, only 47 candidates remained from the original class of over 200. Sarah was not just among the survivors, she was one of the top performers throughout the entire ordeal. The instructors' evaluations noted her exceptional mental toughness, outstanding physical performance, and natural leadership abilities. More importantly, she had earned the respect of her fellow candidates who had witnessed her performance under the most challenging conditions possible. The completion of Hell Week marked a significant milestone, but it was only the beginning of the BUD/S training program. The second phase would focus on diving and underwater operations, skills that were fundamental to SEAL missions. Sarah's exceptional swimming abilities and comfortable relationship with water-based activities positioned her well for this phase of training. However, she knew that each phase would bring new challenges and higher standards. Following a brief recovery period after Hell Week, the surviving candidates began the diving phase of training. This involved learning to use complex breathing apparatus, conducting underwater navigation exercises, and performing combat swimming missions. The technical aspects of diving operations required precise attention to detail and absolute adherence to safety protocols. A single mistake could result in serious injury or death. Sarah's technical background and attention to detail served her well during diving training. She mastered the complex equipment quickly and demonstrated exceptional underwater navigation skills. The instructors noted her ability to remain calm and focused during challenging underwater exercises, qualities that were essential for SEAL operations. Her performance during this phase further established her reputation as one of the top candidates in the class. The physical demands of diving training were different from, but equally challenging as the first phase. Extended underwater swims, often while carrying heavy equipment, tested candidates' physical conditioning and mental discipline in new ways. Sarah's exceptional swimming skills allowed her to excel during these exercises while helping other candidates who struggled with the water-based challenges. As the diving phase progressed, Sarah began to realize that her gender actually provided some advantages during certain aspects of training. Her smaller size allowed her to navigate tight underwater spaces more easily than larger male candidates. Her attention to detail and careful approach to technical procedures impressed instructors who had seen too many candidates make dangerous mistakes due to overconfidence or carelessness. However, her success also continued to attract additional scrutiny from instructors and some negative attention from fellow candidates who resented being outperformed by a woman. Sarah had learned to handle this pressure professionally, focusing on her own performance while maintaining the teamwork and camaraderie that were essential to SEAL culture. She was walking a delicate balance between standing out for the right reasons while avoiding unnecessary conflict. The completion of the diving phase brought the class to the final segment of BUD/S training, land warfare. This phase would test candidates' abilities in combat situations, including weapons training, demolitions, reconnaissance, and small unit tactics. For Sarah, this represented the culmination of all her technical training and military experience. Her background in combat engineering would finally be directly applicable to her SEAL training. Land warfare training took place in various environments, from desert training facilities to urban combat scenarios. Candidates learned to use specialized weapons systems, conduct reconnaissance missions, and execute complex demolition operations. The training was realistic and dangerous, with live ammunition and actual explosives used during many exercises. The margin for error was minimal, and candidates who couldn't meet the standards were quickly removed from the program. Sarah's technical expertise and experience with explosives made her one of the strongest performers during the demolitions portion of training. Her calculations were precise, her handling of dangerous materials was confident and safe, and her ability to solve complex problems under pressure impressed even the most skeptical instructors. For the first time since starting Bud/S, Sarah felt like she was operating in her natural element rather than simply surviving challenging conditions. Sarah's exceptional performance during the land warfare phase of Bud/S training solidified her position as one of the top candidates in her class. Her expertise with explosives and demolitions had impressed even the most experienced instructors, and her ability to lead small unit operations demonstrated the tactical intelligence that special operations demanded. As the training program neared its conclusion, Sarah realized that she was not just surviving the course. She was excelling in ways that exceeded her own expectations. The final weeks of Bud/S included comprehensive testing of all the skills candidates had learned throughout the program. Swimming and diving proficiency tests, land navigation exercises, weapons qualifications, and tactical problem-solving scenarios were all part of the final evaluation process. Sarah approached each test with the same methodical preparation and intense focus that had carried her through every previous challenge. Her scores were consistently among the highest in the class. The graduation ceremony for Bud/S was a moment of incredible pride and accomplishment. Of the original 200-plus candidates who had started the program, only 26 completed all phases of training. Sarah was not only among this elite group, but she had graduated with the second highest overall scores in the class. Her parents traveled from Texas to witness the ceremony, and her father's emotions were visible as he watched his daughter receive recognition as one of the Navy's newest SEAL candidates. However, completing Bud/S was only the first step in becoming a fully qualified Navy SEAL. Sarah would now enter SEAL qualification training, an additional 6 months of advanced instruction, covering specialized skills like advanced weapon systems, foreign languages, medical training, and complex tactical operations. This training would be even more demanding than Bud/S, with higher standards and more realistic scenarios that closely simulated actual combat conditions. SEAL qualification training took place at various facilities across the country, each specializing in different aspects of special operations. Sarah's first assignment was to the Advanced Weapons Training Facility in Virginia, where she would learn to use specialized firearms, explosives, and other equipment used exclusively by SEAL teams. The instructors were active-duty SEALs with extensive combat experience, who brought real-world expertise to every lesson. The weapons training was intense and comprehensive, covering everything from precision marksmanship to close-quarters combat techniques. Sarah had always been a capable marksman, but the training elevated her skills to an entirely new level. She learned to operate in various lighting conditions, engage multiple targets quickly and accurately, and maintain weapon systems under challenging field conditions. Her attention to detail and methodical approach to learning new skills served her well during this phase. More challenging than the technical aspects of weapons training were the psychological elements designed to simulate combat stress. Instructors used live ammunition, explosive charges, and realistic scenarios to create environments that closely resembled actual combat operations. Candidates were required to make split-second decisions while under extreme stress, often with limited information and multiple variables to consider. Sarah's engineering background and experience with high-stress demolition work proved invaluable during these exercises. Following weapons training, Sarah moved to medical training, where SEAL candidates learned advanced first aid and trauma care techniques. In special operations, team members often operated in remote areas, where traditional medical support was unavailable, making these skills essential for mission success and team survival. The training was graphic and realistic, using simulated casualties and emergency scenarios that prepared candidates for the worst possible situations. Sarah's calm demeanor and attention to detail made her particularly well-suited for medical training. She mastered complex procedures quickly and demonstrated the ability to work effectively under pressure when treating serious injuries. Her instructors noted her natural bedside manner and suggested that she consider pursuing additional medical training to serve as a team medic. The combination of her explosive expertise and medical skills would make her an exceptionally valuable team member. The language training portion of SEAL qualification training was designed to prepare candidates for operations in foreign countries. Sarah was assigned to study Arabic, a language that would be essential for operations in the Middle East where SEAL teams were frequently deployed. The intensive program required her to achieve conversational proficiency in just 16 weeks, a challenging goal that demanded hours of daily study in addition to other training requirements. Sarah approached language learning with the same dedication she applied to physical training, spending every available moment practicing pronunciation, memorizing vocabulary, and studying cultural nuances that would be important during overseas deployments. Her methodical approach and exceptional memory allowed her to progress rapidly, and she achieved fluency levels that exceeded the minimum requirements. Her instructors were impressed with her linguistic abilities and cultural sensitivity. The final phase of SEAL qualification training focused on advanced tactical operations and small unit leadership. Candidates were placed in realistic scenarios that required them to plan and execute complex missions while leading teams of their peers. These exercises tested not just technical skills, but also decision-making abilities, communication skills, and the ability to adapt quickly when situations changed unexpectedly. Sarah excelled during the tactical training phase, demonstrating natural leadership abilities and exceptional tactical intelligence. Her background in engineering proved valuable when planning complex operations that required precise timing and coordination of multiple elements. Her teammates respected her technical expertise and appreciated her calm, methodical approach to problem-solving under pressure. For the first time since beginning SEAL training, Sarah felt completely confident in her abilities and comfortable with her role as a team leader. The graduation from SEAL qualification training was even more significant than completing BUD/S. The ceremony was attended by senior Navy officials and active duty SEAL team members who welcomed the new graduates into their exclusive brotherhood. Sarah received her SEAL Trident, the distinctive warfare pin that identified her as a fully qualified naval special warfare operator. She was now one of fewer than 2,500 active duty SEALs in the entire Navy, and one of only a handful of women to achieve this distinction. Following graduation, Sarah received orders to report to SEAL Team 5, based in Coronado, California. The team was preparing for deployment to Afghanistan, where they would conduct direct action missions against high-value targets and provide specialized support to conventional forces. For Sarah, this represented the culmination of years of training and preparation. She would finally have the opportunity to put her skills to work in actual combat operations. Reporting to SEAL Team 5 was both exciting and intimidating. Sarah was joining a unit with a distinguished combat history and a reputation for successful completion of the most challenging missions. The team members were experienced operators who had completed multiple combat deployments and possessed the kind of practical knowledge that could only be gained through real-world experience. Sarah understood that she would need to prove herself all over again in this new environment. The team leader, Lieutenant Commander Jake Mitchell, was a 15-year SEAL veteran with extensive combat experience in both Iraq and Afghanistan. He had specifically requested Sarah for his team based on her exceptional training scores and her expertise with explosives and demolitions. During their initial meeting, he made it clear that her gender was irrelevant to him. What mattered was her ability to contribute to mission success and team safety. Sarah's introduction to the team was professional and straightforward. The other team members were initially reserved, adopting a wait-and-see attitude about the new addition to their group. This was normal protocol for any new team member. But Sarah understood that her gender added an extra layer of scrutiny to every interaction. She focused on demonstrating her competence through consistent performance, rather than trying to force acceptance through personality or charm. The team's preparation for deployment involved intensive training exercises designed to simulate the conditions they would encounter in Afghanistan. Sarah participated in close-quarters combat drills, helicopter insertion exercises, and complex mission planning sessions that required her to integrate all the skills she had learned during SEAL training. Her performance during these exercises was consistently excellent, and she began to earn the respect of her new teammates. One exercise in particular helped establish Sarah's credibility with the team. During a simulated hostage rescue mission, The team was required to breach a fortified building using explosive charges to create entry points. Sarah was responsible for calculating and placing the charges, work that required precise measurements and careful timing to ensure success without causing excessive collateral damage. Her calculations were perfect, and the breach was executed flawlessly, allowing the team to complete the mission successfully. Following the exercise, the team's senior enlisted member, Senior Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez, approached Sarah with a level of respect that had been absent during her first weeks with the unit. Rodriguez was a 20-year veteran with extensive combat experience who served as an unofficial mentor to younger team members. His acceptance of Sarah's capabilities carried significant weight with the rest of the team and marked a turning point in her integration into the unit. The final weeks before deployment were filled with administrative requirements, equipment checks, and family preparations. Sarah had no spouse or children to worry about, but she understood the sacrifices that her married teammates were making by deploying overseas for extended periods. She spent time getting to know the team members' families and learning about the personal motivations that drove each operator to continue serving despite the dangers and difficulties of special operations. The pre-deployment briefings provided detailed information about the security situation in Afghanistan and the types of missions the team would be expected to conduct. Intelligence reports described a complex environment with multiple threat groups, challenging terrain, and political constraints that would affect how operations could be conducted. Sarah studied the briefing materials carefully, understanding that thorough preparation could mean the difference between mission success and failure. The team's area of operations would be in eastern Afghanistan, near the border with Pakistan, where insurgent groups maintain supply routes and training facilities. The missions would include direct action raids against high-value targets, reconnaissance operations to gather intelligence, and training assistance for Afghan security forces. Each type of mission would require different skills and present unique challenges that would test everything Sarah had learned during her training. As the deployment date approached, Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness that she recognized from previous challenging experiences. She had trained for this opportunity throughout her entire military career, and now she would finally have the chance to put her skills to work in defense of her country. The months of training, the physical and mental challenges, and the sacrifices had all led to this moment. The night before leaving for Afghanistan, Sarah called her father to let him know that she was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. He told her how proud he was of her accomplishments and reminded her to trust in her training and the teammates who would be fighting alongside her. His words provided the emotional foundation she needed as she prepared for her first combat deployment as a Navy SEAL. The flight to Afghanistan was long and uncomfortable, with multiple stops for refueling and security briefings. Sarah used the travel time to review mission plans, study the terrain where they would be operating, and mentally prepare for the transition from training environment to actual combat operations. She understood that everything would be different once they arrived in country, and she wanted to be as prepared as possible for the challenges ahead. Landing at Bagram Airfield in Afghanistan was Sarah's first exposure to an active war zone. The security procedures, the constant presence of armed personnel, and the distant sound of helicopter rotors created an atmosphere unlike anything she had experienced during training. This was the environment where she would prove that all her preparation and sacrifice had been worthwhile, and where she would finally earn her place among the elite warriors she had dreamed of joining since childhood. The team's forward operating base was a small fortified compound, located in a mountainous region near the Pakistan border. The facilities were basic but functional, with living quarters, communication equipment, and secure areas for mission planning and equipment storage. Sarah was assigned to quarters with the rest of the team, and the cramped conditions required everyone to develop efficient routines for sharing limited space and resources. The first few weeks at the forward operating base were spent conducting reconnaissance patrols and familiarizing themselves with the local terrain and security situation. Sarah participated in every patrol, using the opportunities to apply her land navigation skills and observe potential target areas firsthand. The mountainous terrain was challenging, requiring excellent physical conditioning and careful attention to route planning and security procedures. During one early patrol, the team encountered a small group of insurgents who were placing an improvised explosive device along a road frequently used by coalition forces. The team leader decided to engage the insurgents to prevent the IED from being emplaced, and Sarah found herself in her first actual firefight. The engagement was brief but intense, requiring her to apply all the combat training she had received while dealing with the stress and confusion of real combat. Sarah's performance during the firefight was steady and professional. She maintained accurate fire, communicated effectively with her teammates, and followed proper tactical procedures throughout the engagement. When the fighting ended, the insurgents had been eliminated and the IED had been safely destroyed. Her teammates praised her calm demeanor and effective performance, and Sarah realized that her years of training had prepared her well for the realities of combat operations. Following the successful engagement, the team leader assigned Sarah to serve as the primary explosives expert for all future missions. This role would require her to handle demolition tasks, explosive ordnance disposal, and breaching operations that were critical to mission success. Sarah understood the responsibility that came with this assignment and the trust that her teammates were placing in her technical expertise and judgment under pressure. Sarah's first major operation as the team's explosives expert came 3 weeks into the deployment. Intelligence reports had identified a compound in a remote mountain valley where a high-value target was meeting with local insurgent leaders. The target was responsible for coordinating attacks against coalition forces and needed to be captured or eliminated to disrupt the insurgent network in the region. The mission would require a helicopter insertion, a 2-mile approach march through difficult terrain, and a coordinated assault on a fortified compound. The mission planning process was extensive and detailed, involving hours of studying satellite imagery, analyzing intelligence reports, and coordinating with supporting units. Sarah was responsible for developing the explosive breaching plan that would allow the team to gain entry to the target compound quickly and safely. Her calculations needed to account for the construction materials of the buildings, the placement of doors and windows, and the need to minimize collateral damage to potential intelligence materials inside. The team spent 2 days rehearsing the mission using a mock compound constructed at their forward operating base. Every team member practiced their specific roles repeatedly until the entire operation could be executed flawlessly even in darkness. Sarah's breaching charges were tested and refined until she was confident that they would create the exact entry points needed for the assault to succeed. The rehearsals also allowed the team to identify potential problems and develop contingency plans for various scenarios. On the night of the operation, Sarah conducted final checks on all her explosive equipment, while the team prepared for helicopter insertion. Her charges were precisely measured and configured for the specific doors and walls she would need to breach. The backup charges were prepared and tested to ensure that equipment failure wouldn't compromise the mission. As the helicopters approached the insertion point, Sarah felt the familiar combination of nervousness and excitement that accompanied high-stakes operations. The helicopter insertion was conducted under cover of darkness in a small clearing approximately 2 miles from the target compound. The team moved quickly from the helicopters and established a defensive perimeter while conducting communications checks and equipment inspections. Sarah verified that her explosive charges had not been damaged during the flight and that all detonation devices were functioning properly. The approach march would be conducted in complete silence through mountainous terrain that offered numerous opportunities for enemy observation. Moving through the mountains at night required exceptional land navigation skills and careful attention to noise discipline. The team moved in single file, with Sarah positioned near the front, where she could observe the target compound and finalize her breaching plan based on actual visual reconnaissance. The approach took nearly 3 hours, with frequent stops to check their position and observe for enemy activity. Sarah used the movement time to mentally rehearse her breaching sequence and prepare for the rapid actions that would be required once the assault began. The target compound was larger and more complex than the satellite imagery had indicated. Sarah identified 3 potential entry points that would allow the team to access different parts of the building simultaneously, increasing their chances of capturing or eliminating the target before he could escape or destroy important intelligence materials. Her revised breaching plan required additional explosive charges, but she had anticipated this possibility and brought extra equipment for exactly this type of situation. The team leader made the final decision to proceed with the assault after confirming that the target was inside the compound with several associates. Sarah positioned her charges at the designated entry points while other team members established security and prepared for the coordinated breach. The timing would be critical. All charges needed to detonate simultaneously to achieve maximum surprise and prevent the insurgents from mounting an effective defense. When the assault began, Sarah's charges performed exactly as planned. The 3 entry points were created simultaneously, allowing the team to enter the compound from multiple directions and quickly gain control of the situation. The precision of her explosive work minimized collateral damage while creating the tactical advantage needed for mission success. The entire assault was completed in less than 4 minutes, with the high-value target captured alive, along with significant intelligence materials. Following the successful mission, Sarah's teammates praised her technical expertise and professional performance under pressure. The team leader noted in his after-action report that her explosive breaching had been flawless and had contributed directly to the mission's success. More importantly, her calm professionalism during her first major combat operation had demonstrated that she possessed the mental toughness and technical skills needed for the most challenging special operations missions. The success of the mission established Sarah's credibility within the special operations community and led to her being assigned to increasingly important and dangerous operations. Over the following months, she participated in dozens of missions ranging from direct action raids to complex reconnaissance operations that required her to operate behind enemy lines for extended periods. Her expertise with explosives made her an essential team member, and her tactical intelligence and calm demeanor under pressure earned the respect of everyone she worked with. One particularly challenging mission involved destroying a weapons cache hidden in a cave complex deep in insurgent-controlled territory. The mission required a multi-day operation, with the team establishing a temporary base in the mountains while conducting reconnaissance to locate the exact position of the weapons storage areas. Sarah was responsible for calculating the explosive charges needed to collapse the cave tunnels while ensuring that the destruction would be complete and permanent. The reconnaissance phase of the mission revealed that the cave complex was more extensive than intelligence reports had indicated. Multiple tunnel systems connected various storage areas, and destroying one section without properly collapsing the others would leave significant weapons and ammunition available for insurgent use. Sarah developed a complex demolition plan that required precise placement of charges at multiple points throughout the tunnel system, work that would require her to spend hours alone in the cave complex with minimal security support. Executing the demolition plan required Sarah to move through narrow, dangerous tunnels while carrying heavy explosive charges and detonation equipment. The cave system was partially flooded, poorly ventilated, and showed signs of structural instability that made the work extremely hazardous. Sarah worked methodically through the complex, placing charges at precisely calculated points while maintaining communication with her teammates positioned outside the cave system. The demolition was executed perfectly, with coordinated detonations collapsing the entire cave complex and permanently destroying the weapons cache. The operation eliminated a significant source of weapons and ammunition for insurgent groups in the region and demonstrated the technical expertise and courage that special operations missions demanded. Sarah's performance during the mission earned her a commendation from the task force commander and established her reputation as one of the most skilled explosive specialists in the theater. As her deployment continued, Sarah found herself being requested by name for missions that required specialized explosive expertise. Her reputation had spread throughout the special operations community, and other teams began asking for her assistance with particularly challenging demolition tasks. This recognition was both professionally satisfying and personally validating, proving that her years of training and sacrifice had prepared her for exactly the type of work she was now performing. However, the increasing operational tempo and constant exposure to combat stress began to take its toll on Sarah and her teammates. The forward operating base came under mortar attack several times, and the team suffered their first casualty when an improvised explosive device wounded one of the operators during a routine patrol. The incident served as a stark reminder of the dangers they faced every day and the importance of maintaining constant vigilance and professional standards. Sarah's response to the casualty was to increase her focus on mission preparation and explosive ordnance disposal procedures. She spent additional time training junior personnel on proper explosive handling techniques and safety procedures, understanding that small mistakes in her field of expertise could have catastrophic consequences. Her dedication to safety and technical excellence set an example that influenced the entire task force and contributed to the successful completion of numerous dangerous missions. One of the most significant operations of Sarah's deployment involved a joint mission with British Special Air Service personnel to capture a high-value target who was coordinating attacks across international borders. The mission required precise timing and coordination between multiple teams operating in different countries simultaneously. Sarah was assigned to the primary assault team and was responsible for breaching operations at the main target compound. The international nature of the mission added layers of complexity that required extensive coordination and diplomatic considerations. Sarah worked closely with British explosive specialists to ensure that techniques and equipment were compatible and that safety procedures met the standards of both nations' special operations forces. The professional exchanges with Allied Special Operations personnel broadened her tactical knowledge and demonstrated the international scope of special operations cooperation. The joint mission was executed flawlessly, with coordinated operations in 3 countries resulting in the capture of several high-value targets and the disruption of a major insurgent network. Sarah's explosive breaching allowed the assault teams to gain entry to fortified compounds quickly and safely, contributing directly to the mission's success. The operation demonstrated the effectiveness of international special operations cooperation and established relationships that would prove valuable throughout her career. As her deployment neared its end, Sarah reflected on the experiences that had transformed her from a newly qualified SEAL into a combat-proven special operations warrior. She had participated in over 50 combat missions, ranging from small reconnaissance operations to major assault missions involving multiple teams and supporting units. Her technical expertise and professional performance had earned the respect of teammates, commanders, and allied personnel who had worked with her throughout the deployment. The transformation wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal as well. The months of combat operations had tested every aspect of her character and revealed strengths she hadn't known she possessed. The pressure of being one of the first women in SEAL teams had been intense, but her consistent performance had proven that gender was irrelevant when it came to mission accomplishment and team effectiveness. She had not just survived in the special operations community. She had excelled and set new standards for what was possible. The final mission of Sarah's deployment was a large-scale operation, involving multiple SEAL teams and supporting units, in a coordinated assault against a major insurgent stronghold. The mission would serve as the capstone to months of smaller operations, and would require all the skills and experience she had developed throughout her deployment. Sarah was assigned to lead the explosive breaching element for the entire operation, a responsibility that reflected the trust and confidence her commanders had developed in her abilities. 6 and 8 Planning for the final mission took several weeks and involved detailed coordination with conventional forces, air support units, and intelligence specialists. Sarah worked with explosive specialists from other teams to develop a comprehensive breaching plan that would allow multiple assault teams to gain entry to a complex of fortified buildings simultaneously. The scale and complexity of the operation exceeded anything she had previously been involved with, and required her to demonstrate leadership skills that went beyond technical expertise. The operation was conducted during daylight hours, a departure from the typical nighttime special operations missions that had characterized most of Sarah's deployment. The decision to conduct a daylight assault was based on intelligence indicating that the insurgent leaders would be meeting during the day and that the element of surprise could still be achieved through rapid execution and overwhelming firepower. Sarah's explosive charges would need to be precisely timed to coordinate with airstrikes and artillery support. When the assault began, Sarah's charges performed flawlessly as part of a precisely choreographed sequence of explosive breaches, airstrikes, and ground assaults. The insurgent stronghold was captured within minutes, with minimal casualties to coalition forces and the successful elimination or capture of every targeted individual. The operation was considered one of the most successful of the entire deployment and served as a model for future large-scale special operations missions. Following the completion of the final mission, Sarah began preparing for the return to the United States and the transition back to peacetime training and operations. The months of combat operations had provided invaluable experience that couldn't be replicated in any training environment. She had proven herself as a capable special operations warrior and had established a reputation that would serve her well throughout the remainder of her military career. The redeployment process involved extensive debriefings, equipment maintenance, and administrative tasks that marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another in Sarah's military service. Her performance evaluations were exceptional, with commanders noting her technical expertise, leadership abilities, and consistent professionalism under the most challenging conditions. She had not only met the standards expected of a Navy SEAL, but had exceeded them in ways that established new benchmarks for excellence. As she prepared to leave Afghanistan, Sarah realized that she had accomplished far more than simply proving that women could serve effectively in special operations roles. She had demonstrated that excellence in military service was determined by individual capability, dedication, and character rather than gender or background. Her success had opened doors for other women who would follow and had contributed to the ongoing evolution of special operations forces. Sarah's return to the United States after her successful deployment to Afghanistan marked the beginning of a new and unexpected chapter in her military career. Her combat record was exemplary, her technical skills were widely respected, and her leadership abilities had been proven under the most challenging conditions possible. However, she would soon discover that some of the most difficult battles she faced would not be against foreign enemies, but against prejudice and skepticism within her own military community. The transition from combat operations to peacetime training was always challenging for special operations personnel. But Sarah faced additional complications that her male colleagues did not experience. News of her successful deployment had spread throughout the military community, generating both admiration and resentment from different quarters. Some viewed her accomplishments as proof that integration of women into special operations was successful, while others questioned whether standards had been lowered or special accommodations had been made. Her first assignment following the deployment was to the Naval Special Warfare Development Group, where she would be involved in developing new techniques and equipment for future SEAL operations. The assignment was both an honor and a challenge, placing her in a position where her technical expertise would be utilized while also making her a highly visible representative of women in special operations. Sarah understood the symbolic importance of her success in this role and the potential impact on future opportunities for other women. The development group was comprised of the most experienced and accomplished SEAL operators, many of whom had completed multiple combat deployments and possessed decades of special operations experience. Sarah's assignment to this elite unit at a relatively early stage in her career was unusual and attracted significant attention within the special operations community. Some viewed her selection as well-deserved based on her exceptional performance, while others questioned whether political considerations had influenced the decision. During her first weeks with the development group, Sarah focused on demonstrating her technical competence and professional dedication. She was assigned to a team working on advanced explosive techniques for maritime operations, work that combined her demolition expertise with complex underwater challenges. The projects required innovative thinking, precise calculations, and the ability to develop solutions to problems that had no established procedures or precedents. Sarah's contributions to the development projects were immediate and significant. Her combat experience provided practical insights that complemented the theoretical knowledge of other team members, and her engineering background allowed her to approach problems from unique perspectives that led to breakthrough solutions. The explosive techniques she developed were eventually adopted by SEAL teams throughout the Navy and became standard procedures for certain types of maritime operations. However, her professional success was accompanied by increasing scrutiny from critics who remained skeptical about women in special operations roles. Articles appeared in military publications questioning whether physical standards had been modified to accommodate female candidates, and online forums buzzed with speculation about her actual performance during combat operations. The criticism was often personal and vicious, going far beyond legitimate professional concerns to include attacks on her character and motivations. The situation reached a crisis point during a professional conference, attended by special operations personnel from all military branches. Sarah had been invited to present her research on advanced maritime demolition techniques to an audience of several hundred experienced operators. The presentation was scheduled as a highlight of the conference, and Sarah had prepared extensively to ensure that her technical material was both comprehensive and practical. The conference venue was a large auditorium filled with seasoned special operations veterans, many of whom had heard rumors and speculation about Sarah's capabilities but had never observed her professional performance firsthand. As she prepared to begin her presentation, Sarah could sense the skepticism and curiosity in the audience. This would be her opportunity to address the doubts and questions that had surrounded her career since completing SEAL training. Before Sarah could begin her presentation, a group of attendees in the back of the auditorium began making loud comments intended to disrupt her presentation and undermine her credibility. The comments started as seemingly innocent questions about her qualifications, but quickly escalated to crude jokes and inappropriate remarks about her gender. Several attendees shouted suggestions that she should take off her uniform because she didn't belong in special operations. The disruption created a tense and hostile atmosphere that threatened to derail the entire conference session. Conference organizers attempted to restore order, but the vocal critics continued their harassment, apparently believing that they had the support of others in the audience. Sarah stood at the podium, facing a room full of the most experienced special operations personnel in the military, while a vocal minority attempted to humiliate her and drive her from the stage. Instead of backing down or allowing the disruption to continue, Sarah made a decision that would define her career and send a powerful message to both supporters and critics. She calmly walked to the side of the stage, where equipment display included various explosive devices and demolition tools that she had developed during her work with the development group. Without saying a word, she began setting up a complex demolition demonstration that would showcase her technical expertise in ways that no PowerPoint presentation ever could. Working with practiced efficiency, Sarah assembled a sophisticated explosive device designed to demonstrate precise controlled demolitions in confined spaces. Her movements were confident and exact, displaying the kind of technical mastery that could only be developed through years of intensive training and real-world application. The audience gradually fell silent as they watched her work, recognizing that they were observing someone with exceptional technical skills and professional competence. When the demonstration device was fully assembled, Sarah returned to the podium and began explaining the technical principles behind advanced maritime demolitions. Her presentation was flawless, combining theoretical knowledge with practical insights gained from actual combat operations. She described the challenges of underwater explosive placement, the calculations required for precise structural destruction, and the safety procedures that prevented accidents during dangerous operations. As her presentation continued, Sarah incorporated the live demonstration device she had assembled, showing exactly how the principles she was describing would be applied in real-world situations. Her technical expertise was undeniable, her professional knowledge was comprehensive, and her ability to perform complex tasks under pressure was clearly evident to everyone in the audience. The critics who had attempted to disrupt her presentation were notably silent. The climax of Sarah's presentation came when she activated the demonstration device, producing a controlled explosion that precisely destroyed a mock target while leaving surrounding materials completely undamaged. The demonstration was a perfect example of the technical skill and precision that special operations demanded, and it provided irrefutable proof of Sarah's professional competence. The audience erupted in applause, recognizing that they had witnessed an exceptional demonstration of special operations expertise. Following the explosive demonstration, Sarah continued her presentation with detailed explanations of the innovative techniques she had developed and their applications to various types of special operations missions. Her material was based on actual combat experience, supported by rigorous testing, and presented with the kind of professional competence that commanded respect from even the most skeptical audience members. The technical content was sophisticated enough to challenge experienced operators while remaining accessible to those unfamiliar with advanced demolition techniques. When Sarah concluded her presentation, the audience response was overwhelmingly positive. The applause was sustained and genuine, reflecting appreciation for both the technical content and the professional manner in which she had handled the attempted disruption. Several senior officers approached her afterward to discuss potential applications of her techniques and to request additional information about her research and development work. The few individuals who had attempted to disrupt her presentation were now conspicuously silent and isolated. Their crude comments and inappropriate behavior had been exposed as unprofessional and contrary to the standards expected of special operations personnel. Several conference attendees approached them directly to express disapproval of their behavior and to make it clear that such conduct would not be tolerated in future professional settings. In the days following the conference, Sarah's presentation became a widely discussed topic throughout the special operations community. Videos of her demonstrations circulated among military personnel, and her technical innovations were praised by experts in explosive ordnance and demolitions. More importantly, her professional response to harassment and criticism became a model for how to handle discrimination and prejudice in military environments. The impact of Sarah's conference presentation extended far beyond the immediate audience. News of her technical achievements and professional demeanor spread throughout the military, reaching senior leaders who had been monitoring the integration of women into special operations roles. Her ability to maintain professionalism while definitively proving her competence under hostile conditions demonstrated exactly the kind of leadership and character that the military valued most. Several weeks after the conference, Sarah received notification that she had been selected for promotion ahead of her peers. Recognition of both her technical contributions and her exemplary professional conduct. The promotion was based on merit and achievement rather than political considerations, reflecting the military's commitment to advancing the most capable personnel regardless of gender or background. Sarah's success was opening doors for other qualified women who aspired to special operations careers. The promotion also brought new responsibilities and opportunities to influence the future development of special operations capabilities. Sarah was assigned to lead a team of technical specialists working on next-generation explosive and demolition systems for maritime and urban environments. The work would require her to coordinate with researchers, engineers, and operational personnel to develop solutions to emerging tactical challenges. Her team included some of the most experienced explosive specialists in the military, personnel who had initially been skeptical about working under the leadership of someone they viewed as a political appointment. However, Sarah's technical expertise and practical experience quickly earned their respect and cooperation. Within months, the team was producing innovative solutions that exceeded their original objectives and established new standards for special operations equipment development. One of the most significant projects under Sarah's leadership involved developing portable demolition systems for urban environments where precision and minimal collateral damage were essential. The project required integrating advanced materials science with practical operational requirements, work that demanded both theoretical knowledge and extensive real-world experience. Sarah's combat background provided crucial insights that guided the development process and ensured that the final products would be effective in actual operations. The success of Sarah's technical projects led to requests for her expertise from other military branches. She participated in international conferences on special operations techniques, sharing knowledge and learning from counterparts in British, Australian, and Canadian special forces. These professional exchanges expanded her understanding of global special operations challenges and contributed to the development of more effective techniques and equipment. As her reputation grew within the international special operations community, Sarah began receiving invitations to speak at military academies and professional development courses. Her presentations focused on technical subjects, but they also addressed the broader themes of professional excellence, overcoming adversity, and maintaining standards under challenging conditions. Young officers and enlisted personnel found inspiration in her story of persistence and achievement, despite facing significant obstacles. The speaking engagements also provided Sarah with opportunities to mentor other women who were considering military careers or who were already serving in challenging environments. She emphasized the importance of focusing on professional competence rather than fighting against discrimination, understanding that exceptional performance was the most effective way to overcome prejudice and open doors for others. Her advice was practical and realistic, based on her own experiences and observations. During one speaking engagement at the Naval Academy, Sarah was approached by a female midshipman who was interested in pursuing a special operations career, but was concerned about the challenges she would face as a woman in a male-dominated field. Sarah's advice was straightforward: prepare thoroughly, maintain the highest professional standards, and never allow others' limitations to become your own limitations. Excellence in performance would ultimately overcome prejudice and skepticism. The midshipman's questions reminded Sarah of her own early concerns about whether she would be accepted in the special operations community. Her journey from skeptical recruit to respected professional had required years of dedication and sacrifice, but it had also demonstrated that barriers could be overcome through persistent effort and unwavering commitment to excellence. Her success was not just personal achievement. It was proof that the military's integration policies could produce exceptional results when implemented properly. Sarah's influence extended beyond her immediate technical contributions to the broader question of how the military could most effectively utilize the talents and capabilities of all qualified personnel regardless of gender. Her career had demonstrated that special operations units could maintain their elite standards while expanding their recruitment base to include the most capable individuals from all backgrounds. The key was ensuring that standards remained high while eliminating irrelevant barriers that prevented qualified candidates from contributing their skills. The transformation in attitudes toward women in special operations was gradual but undeniable. Sarah's success had been followed by other women who completed SEAL training and went on to distinguished careers in various special operations roles. Each success story reinforced the argument that capability rather than gender should be the determining factor in military assignments, and that diverse perspectives and skills could enhance rather than diminish special operations effectiveness. As Sarah reflected on her career progression from determined teenager to respected special operations leader, she realized that her greatest achievement was not personal success, but the contribution she had made to expanding opportunities for others. The barriers she had broken and the standards she had established would benefit future generations of women who chose to serve in special operations roles. Her legacy would be measured not just in her own accomplishments, but in the opportunities she had created for those who would follow her path. The critics who had once suggested she should take off her uniform had been silenced not by arguments or political pressure, but by the undeniable evidence of her professional competence and dedication to military service. Her explosive demonstration at the conference had been more than a technical presentation. It had been a definitive statement that excellence in military service was determined by individual capability and commitment, rather than by outdated assumptions about gender roles and limitations.